to try to hold these every other week. So if we get a lot of participation, then we're going to continue. If we start to see our participation wane, then we may change that schedule a little bit. But this is our way to continue to be connected to our community. You all know how hard it is in the virtual or in the sheltering in place and staying home, how hard it is to get out and talk to people in person. So this is our way to reach out and hear what's going on in your neighborhoods. We are having town halls. We have those once a month, and we've moved those into the evening so more people can attend. Last town hall we had a representative from Beautify San Jose talking about trash pickup and other ways that we are focused on beautifying San Jose. We don't have special guests yet for November, but watch your newsletter and your announcements. We'll be sending that out when we have that posted. I do have, so this is unlike the town hall where I have a long speech and then we have a presenter who's going to talk. This is really just a conversation because this is our opportunity to hear what's going on in your neighborhoods. So in light of that, I do have two staff people. I have Scott Hughes, who is my chief of staff here, and I have Michael Lomeo, who is here as well. He's my senior policy aide. So we're all going to take notes as to what your concerns are. And if you could share with us your name when we call on you and what street you live on, if you live in District 9. If you don't, just let us know what district you live in. And certainly this is open to everybody. We have issues that we represent and take care of all over the city, but those in District 9 we handle directly. So we want to make good notes and make sure that we can keep track of things that are happening in your neighborhood so that we can follow up. We do have some ground rules. Unlike city council meetings where you have you raise your blue hand and you get identified and you have 2 minutes to speak, we're not doing that. This is an opportunity to ask questions, and I ask that you all be respectful and that you be polite and that you ask your question. The point is that we want to hear from as many people as possible. You all may have similar issues in your various neighborhoods, and if I had to guess, by looking at the people who are here, I can guess on several of your issues, but we're going to talk about them because it's important for y'all to hear what we're doing at City Hall and how we're trying to help you as best we can. And some situations are just kind of very, very frustrating, right, Jeff? So with that, we are there again, if you could state your name and your street so that we can take notes of being able to follow up with you. We are going to keep you muted until we call on you, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak, and then please mute yourself again. Michael has some instructions on how to get our attention and raise your virtual hand, or just raise your hand just like I just did if you want to speak. So Michael, take it away.
Thanks. So to identify who is speaking, it's probably easiest if you raise your digital hand. And for computer users during the meeting, you can click on the icon labeled Participants at the bottom center of your PC or Mac screen. At the bottom of the window on the right side of the screen, you'll click the button labeled Raise a Hand, and your digital hand will now be raised. If you're calling by telephone, if you join the webinar, you can dial *9 to raise your hand. And then after you speak, either you can lower your hand or I'll lower your hand for you. If you are unfamiliar with this process, or if it's just a little bit too challenging, I can identify you if you raise your physical hand, and I'll write it down on a piece of paper, and I can Zoom chat you to let you know that I've seen you raise your actual hand. Just a heads up, we are recording this meeting so that we can follow up on any outstanding items, and may post to YouTube so that we can transcribe this meeting for folks that are hard of hearing and hearing impaired after the meeting. Thanks.
Okay, we're also going to work to make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask their questions or weigh in on their concerns. This meeting is intended to last for an hour, so let's get started on the questions and comments. And I do have 3 blue hand raises, so I'm going to be watching the blue hands, but Michael and Scott are both going to be helping me out. So if you're uncomfortable marking the blue hand, the raise hand, raise your hand and we will get to you. I don't know what kind of order, but we'll get to you. How about that? So I'm going to start with Jeff Bellini because I know what your issue is and I want you to share it, and let's chat a little bit about it.
Thank you very much for that, Pam. So just the topic is a planning project that I wish, or a modification to my home that I wish to do based on the existing way that the code is written, municipal code. It requires that I submit a permit application to modify the inside of my house. There won't be any modifications to the exterior, but based on the way that the rules are expressly written, I'm caught in this trap that requires a public review. And the reason why a public review is problematic is because sometime since 2013, I don't know what year it happened, the permit application, the project application fee has an additional $6,000 charge to do a public review. And I think for my project, that doesn't seem fair to me at all. And so I'm seeking one of 3 things from you, Pam: either your help arranging a 10 to 15 minute call with the planning director, or your help, and I'll do as much of the work as I can. I'll do a ton of it, but I'd like to submit a resolution to make a minor amendment to the municipal code so that I don't get caught in this little small snippet problem area. And it wouldn't then require public review, it would be an administrative review, which seems fair. And then the last option would be, okay, if neither one of those are really that easy, if there's any way for me to do the application and then just not have to pay the $6,000 for the public review. And ultimately it's the same fee as an admin review, but would be going through the public review. Because honestly, Pam, no one's gonna say a word. It's inside my house, nothing changes on the outside. There won't be one single bit of public feedback. And that's why I feel that way.
Jeff, we're very willing to work on this with you, whichever of these 3 work. You should know that we have had this conversation with the planning director, Rosalind Huey, and they investigated the code to see if there was any exception we could get. There currently isn't, so we would have to fix that. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the city manager, David Sykes, and I raised this issue, and he frankly was shocked that you were getting charged $6,000 for the review process. And we're talking about what we can do to help fix this for you. I agree that this is ridiculous, that you should have to pay $6,000 for something that isn't going to, no, your neighbors aren't going to object, that isn't adding any square footage. It's only benefiting you and your house. So we will definitely work on that with you. And Scott and Jeff, I know Scott's been working with you, but yeah, let's maybe the 3 of us can arrange a meeting and figure out which strategy works best of these 3. But I agree with moving forward on all 3.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. Next one is the phone number 5140. Michael, what's your question?
Yeah, we've got a couple burned out buildings and strip centers in your district, Pam, and COVID or no COVID, it's been over a year for both of them, and nothing. I don't know if there's what the holdup is, but that's not good. And San Jose Fire Department, in my lifetime, I've seen the flames burnt down in front of the fire station on Hillsdale. I had a house when I was a kid, burnt to the ground. Fire department took forever. What I'm saying is that there's a pattern of slow response time for San Jose PD in this particular area. You know where I live, you know the whole thing. And I want to know what you're doing about these buildings that are derelict. I mean, what if there was 5 or 10 of them? Would it be 5 or 10 more buildings just burned out looking like Detroit? It's terrible.
Okay.
And
Is that your question then, Michael? What do we plan to?
yeah, my question is, what's being done about these buildings? They're just left derelict like this. Is that legal to do that? I don't think so. You know, I mean, do you want your district to look like Detroit is what I want to know. And I want to know what you're doing about it to fix it. And these response times are bad. The response time on Greenmore Court was way off. I'm the one who called it in, and they said it was called in 2 or 3 minutes later. I sent Scott Hughes a text picture of what happened. I'm not saying that those minutes were going to make much of a difference, but they could. San Jose PD arrived. I saw them arrive. They made a call and they left. Can you imagine they left? San Jose PD, you should really be on them. They're the laziest people in this entire city administration I've ever seen in my whole life. Did they wait around? Did they go and maybe check? I know they're not firemen, but
okay, Michael,
yeah,
are you going to give me an opportunity to answer this question? I would really like to answer your question.
Yeah. I like to hear some answers.
Okay, first of
I'd like to
all,
hear some
the
answers.
property. Thank you. 2 things. One, fire department does have slower response times because we are stretched from the fire departments where the different fire stations are. There are several new fire stations being built. One in South Willow Glen, Fire Station 37, which will reduce response time in that area of the city, but it also will result in freeing up fire stations in District 9, both on Pearl and on Ross, because now those fire stations are called in to take care of the northern part of the district when this new fire station is built. That will alleviate some of the stress. So that's one thing. Do I think that we should have, or do I support burned out buildings? Of course not. There's the broken window syndrome. It isn't good for the city. It isn't good for the community. But in some cases, and I don't know which specific properties you're talking about, but they are related to insurance claims, and then there's a lot of issues. One is insurance claims. One is, what does the property owner plan to do with the property? And a third, frankly, is providing permits and plans for what they're going to do. And under COVID, that process has been really slow. The city has added more people to the inspection department, but it's still, there is a backlog. So it's true, there's a backlog in these types of things, not just buildings that have been burned, but also buildings that are looking for permits and final inspection so that they can be occupied. But we are working on that by hiring more staff and then freeing up staff who can go out and do the inspections, and in some cases doing them virtually. So it isn't good, and it's not a positive thing to see burnout buildings. And there was the fire on Hillsdale at the pizza place a year and a half or so ago. And a lot of those things have been delayed, unfortunately, under COVID, which is really, but we need to get back to work as a city, and we are little by little. Okay, next.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, Michael, I'm going to give other people a chance. Molly McLeod.
Good morning, Councilmember. Thank you so much for having the office meetings. I appreciate getting to have met with one of your staff members about an issue that I'm passionate about, which is access, and making sure that in our emergency preparedness and response that we are as ready as we need to be. And that's certainly a huge challenge. I'm grateful that the city manager has this as the top enterprise priority. So I'm sure you'll have a lot of support as you raise questions and improve practices. So my ask for you is to make a commitment to add one access skill every week and spread it. So for example, on social media, making sure that alt text and image descriptions are included every single time. I have seen it more frequently, but it could be consistent. For example, one of the charts that had the building permits that had been approved, if there isn't a description of what the numbers are and how that's changed over time, then the information is not accessible to people who use screen readers, who are blind or have vision impairments. I've been really active in Cadre, Silicon Valley, in the state Cal OES Access and Functional Needs meetings, and on the Santa Clara County Access and Functional Needs Working Group. Because I worked for the city of San Jose for 21 years and was in that position both with the power shutoffs, I'm aware of where we are, and we also have a long way to go. So the leadership from your office in this area would mean a lot, as well as asking good questions, and I'll follow up with some of that on email. There's a white paper that's currently getting draft comments on COVID-19, and unfortunately, the level of expertise for the consultants that have been hired, the RFP didn't include any awareness of a requirement for access and functional needs. To connect in a heart-to-heart way with you, as a queer person, and I appreciated your sharing in the video about your brother's passing. For me, my son died. He was in a hit and run. And on the day that I brought him home for hospice care, the power went out. And so there I am, a mom, with my son's comatose body and the hospital bed going down. So I know personally about loss as you do. I never want other families to go through this. With the COVID-19 numbers rising, there's much that we can do. And so I'm asking you, as my representative, as a woman with a heart, as a woman who knows loss, to make sure we do everything in our power so that all residents can be included in the process. Right now, the DCARA, which is Deaf Counseling and Referral Agency, has only in the last 2 weeks been part of these discussions because of our push to get transcription. Until those access practices are made available, even in meetings with you, there isn't an opportunity for full participation. So thank you for your consideration.
Molly, thank you for your advocacy, and I'm so sorry about the loss of your son. I know the pain of that kind of loss. I haven't lost a child, but I lost my brother,
Yes.
as you know, and it's heartbreaking. And so I have a newer staff member, Cameron, who I think you've been in contact with.
Yes.
Who we were having a policy discussion on what issues we should focus on about a month or so ago. And she said, I want to focus on accessibility. So we then, I heard you at city council meetings talk about accessibility. So she reached out to you, and then we, a simple gesture, but we acknowledge the anniversary of the ADA, which are very important federal laws that we implement. With your challenge to add an accessibility skill, I will take on that challenge. I think that is really important. It's not from hearing impaired, visual impaired, and people who have physical disabilities who can't get around. They need accessibility. Earlier this week at City Council, we voted on al fresco updates. And my staff person, Cameron, I didn't ask for a policy update in that area, but she sent me one anyway and said, I want you to talk about accessibility and streets and sidewalks being blocked and accessible for handicapped individuals. So I did. I raised the issue. I am very concerned about power outages as it relates to our seniors and those who are medically fragile and have medical needs. So we will continue to advocate for that, Molly, and work with you. It's really important. I know you reached out to Scott about transcripts for this meeting. We weren't able to get it together soon enough, but we will work on that for the next time, so that is available to you, and to make sure that our website is available for all. So I appreciate your advocacy. I appreciate your support, and anything we can do to make this community more accessible to everybody is really, really critical. So thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, next question is from Martha O'Connell.
Yeah, hi, Pam. Thanks for doing this. I want to say, first of all, I really appreciate the fact that you're not doing pre-screening, that you're letting people speak, and you're also being gently firm with people that abuse that. So thank you for doing that. I have just 2 issues. I have sent you emails. One was way back in August, and I got a response from you and the city manager. This says, oh, these are great questions and we're going to get back to you. And nobody ever got back to me. And that was, as you're aware, I live in a senior mobile home park with lots of frail folks, many of whom do not have vehicles and many of whom are night blind. And I asked a general question about evacuation procedures, not specific to any one wildfire, but just what is the city going to do in any case where we would have to evacuate? Who is going to help the people who don't have cars, who can't drive at night? And quite frankly, Pam, if I got an order telling me to evacuate the park, first of all, I'm night blind, so it would have to be during the day. And secondly, I wouldn't even know where to go. I mean, where do we go? So if somebody could follow up with me, please, on global evacuation procedures, what the city is going to do to help us. The second question I asked was about, it's a segue into the same type of issue. I got a very frightening video about earthquake warning that was supposed to occur. I later found out it was from some kook on YouTube. So my question once again is, and I never got a response, does the city issue any kind of earthquake warning? Or does the county or whatever? Where can we sign up? And I will sign up, and I'll also publish it in my newsletter. So those are very closely tied questions. And once again, thank you for doing this. This is great, and keep doing it. Thanks, you.
Martha. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry I didn't get back to you in August about the evacuation proceedings, but you gave me a suggestion for a good topic for our next town hall. And that is to have someone from the emergency office talk about evacuations and services in all areas, power outages, etc. So let's see if we can coordinate that, and then we'll get that out to you and your population, and everybody can hopefully come to that town hall. I'll talk to Michael and Scott about who we can get, but I think that's really good information for us to have on how to evacuate. Regarding earthquakes, I am not aware, maybe there's someone on here who has this knowledge, but I am not aware that there is any advanced warning of earthquakes. That's the problem with an earthquake. They happen. There's no real acknowledgement that they're going to happen. The USGS does have an ability. They're watching the ground, and they have an ability to see if tremors are occurring, but they can't predict for sure. So there's no way for them to say, okay, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, an earthquake is going to occur. So I would say if you get, and in that regard, and actually your email regarding that, the notice you received from the individual about advance warning is bogus, and I'm glad you got that you came to that. But it made me realize that one of the things I'm working on right now, in addition to having policy on ADA, we're working on policy for seniors and others too. But we are coming out with an op-ed that will be informative for seniors on what to do. It'll be kind of we haven't put it together yet. We're working on it with Fred Buzo at AARP, but it will be tips on avoiding scams, on being safe. It's kind of a health and financial awareness op-ed. Look for that. It's in the beginning process. We're trying to hone in on the message, but it will be one thing. I'm very aware of how seniors are targeted pre-COVID, both from scammers using scare tactics. But in COVID, when so many seniors are isolated and underlying health issues because of their isolation, I am extremely concerned about that, and we want to do everything we can to help them. And at city council meetings, when we discuss get our COVID update, I always bring up seniors and how we're going to reach out to them and assist them. So I know, Martha, you're an advocate because of you live in a senior mobile home park, and so any suggestions you have for us, please let us know.
Just one more comment, Pam, real fast. It
Sure.
might help your staff. I did contact the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, okay? And I understand they can't say tomorrow night at 5:30 there's going to be an earthquake, but there is a way to I don't know if the word is predict, what's the right word? You know what I'm trying to say? To say, hey, this period you might want to be careful.
You know,
so I did sign up for that.
Okay.
But a whole lot of people aren't going to do the amount of research I did to even find out the names and email addresses of these folks up in Sacramento. So that's why I'm thinking about the city or the county could do something also.
I appreciate that. It's as someone who lost their house in the Loma Prieta earthquake, and not knowing that was coming, and even if it did, we wouldn't have been able to protect our house. Our house would have been destroyed anyway. But when a couple of days before it, the environment was eerily quiet. And those who have lived around a long time say that's an earthquake sign. That quietness is an indication that an earthquake's going to happen. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it's just a sensitivity. And someone just posted in the chat box that there's an app called My Shake that is an early an earthquake warning system. So thank you for that information, Linda.
Jeff Bellini actually has some information as well.
Who does?
Jeff Bellini, who had the first question today.
Okay.
He lists a iPhone app. Jeff, are you on the line?
Yeah, it's My Shake app. And then there was another piece on that page that just talks about enabling on your phone some government alerts. So there's a feature on iPhones where you can enable in the notification section something for emergency alerts. If you turn that on, they will notify you of government emergency alerts that are in California. You'll get those notes, and it's for earthquakes of magnitude 5.0 or higher. But My Shake is the other app that.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. I don't have a smartphone, and I would say most of the people that live in this park do not have them. I have a landline, but thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay.
We'll keep looking for it, Martha.
Thanks, Martha. Let's go to the next question from Bob McCarty.
How do you do?
Hi.
So I live on Irlanda Way in District 9 near Hillsdale Avenue. And my name's Bob McCarty. So I'm, my interest today is I'm a stakeholder in the process for allocation of sports fields and facilities through citywide sports. For about a decade, I've been sort of the field permit guy for Silicon Valley Rugby. We're an amateur sports organization. We offer rugby to kids from kindergarten through high school, and we have a men's team. So we're nonprofit. A recent policy by Citywide Sports is to define resident organizations as comprising 75% San Jose residents. So if you're a sports organization that's looking for sports fields and you have 2/3 of the organization are San Jose residents, not a resident organization under the policy. If you have 7 out of 10 San Jose residents, not a San Jose resident organization. I understand that the policy is in reaction to a priority policy nomination by Councilmember Jimenez with the intention to generate or to facilitate equity in the fields allocation process. And I'm aware of a lot of the problems with kind of the existing inventory and the allocation process, and I support the goal of equity, particularly with respect to access by lower income participants. So I'm in full support of that. It's my contention that the way that the policy addresses, in particular the 75% policy requirement, it does a disservice to kids and participants in areas that that abut the boundaries with nearby cities. And it works like this in my contention. If your kid goes to a Cambrian district or Union district school, you're liable to have your kid in San Jose is liable to have friends who live in Campbell, or in the Union district, Los Gatos. And if you've seen the city boundaries in District 1, it's just bonkers. It's a salamander. And you can, and it turns out that's where my organization has made our home for the last several years. So we draw on D1 kids. We draw probably within about a 20-minute drive of that facility. And the majority of our participants are San Jose residents. If we are classified as a non-resident organization, we get third priority, which in San Jose, where there's a relative shortfall of sports fields facilities, third priority is really, really bad. It basically means you won't get anything with any kind of consistency, and it's hard to run an organization with that without that kind of consistency. Plus, I feel like it's just an equity issue that an organization, 2/3 of which are San Jose residents, can't qualify as a San Jose resident organization. I also support the principle that, San Jose facilities, the park fields, should serve San Jose residents, not least the nearby, like the folks who live in that neighborhood. But and as a San Jose taxpayer, I support the idea that San Jose facilities should serve San Jose residents first and foremost, although others, are theoretically welcome. So I'd like to see what I can do with the District 9 staff, because I feel like this issue of kind of living near the borders and serving kids who otherwise might not be able to play in a sports league with their friends at school is a matter that it lands differently in District 9 and District 1 and even District 6, which again there's a lot of kids that go to Campbell Union schools there. It's different on the west side of the border than it might be in Central San Jose or South
Right.
Valley or East Side. So,
Bob, I appreciate that. This is an issue I know zero about, I'll admit that. But I'll tell you who knows something about that is my Chief of Staff, Scott Hughes. So I think I'm going to put you in contact with him. Scott, is that okay if you can reach out with Bob? And
Certainly, I already have some ideas. I've been pretty familiar with the field reservation system and how citywide sports has been doing it in the past. There's some other considerations to look at, but I also think that probably Councilmember Jimenez would be open to maybe taking a look at those as well. But we can reach out. I can reach out offline, and we can hopefully talk through it together and see if we can come up with some alternatives.
great, great. Thanks, Scott. And Bob,
Thank
you're
you.
absolutely right. There are kids who go to union schools who live in Los Gatos right across the street, and Campbell and others by where District 9 is in District 1. So thank you for raising that. It's an issue that I don't know anything about. Although when I was with the San Jose Unified School District, we had issues with people who wanted to rent our fields too, who were from outside San Jose Unified, and we had the same kind of issue. So on a global issue, I understand where it's coming from, but I look forward to the two of you getting together and chatting about possible solutions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, next is Linda Hutchins-Knowles. Hi, Linda.
Hi, Pam. Thank you for this time to talk to you. Really appreciate it. Also, thank you so much for all that you've done over the past 2 years to promote climate-friendly practices in our city, supporting Coyote Valley's preservation, electrification of buildings, and the families of Orchard School. Really appreciate that. And also just to comment personally, like noticing your growth mindset, like admitting when you don't know something, but you're willing to find the answer. That's really appreciated in an elected leader. So thank you. I have 3 quick questions. One is, as you know, during this COVID pandemic, a lot of us are biking more rather than relying on cars. And I wanted to put in a plug for a very specific request, because this is the area I bike in. The Park Crest neighborhood that's just south of Dartmouth School, the playing fields, when people are coming across Blossom Hill Road, there's a nice hawk signal to like stop cars. But if you're biking, or especially biking across it toward Dartmouth, there's suddenly this big curb between the sidewalk and the dirt. And so it's really hard to like try to get off fast before the cars come without crashing to that curb. And I just don't see its purpose. So it's a request for just some mitigation of like taking out this unnecessary curb, so people that are biking across can get across safely without having to slow down and the car might hit them. So I can send more information if you want, but it's at Blossom Hill Road and Park Crest Drive. So that's number 1. Number 2, shifting gears, as a mother of a child with asthma, I am really concerned about indoor air pollution. With the fires, we've had to like seek to go indoors to get away from that terrible air pollution outdoors. But as you may know, gas pollution indoors in our homes is actually a very serious health risk. I'm going to share a link to you to a study Mothers Out Front participated in with the Sierra Club, Rocky Mountain Institute, and Physicians with Social Responsibility. And it found that children living in homes with gas stoves are at a 42% increased risk of asthma. And this is a hidden danger that many people don't know of. Gas stoves are promoted as like this gourmet thing to have a gas stove, but it's actually very dangerous if there's not proper ventilation. So I would love to request you to support and champion when the Climate Smart update comes to the City Council on November 17th, to really put in a plug for the city to look at how we can reduce indoor air pollution from gas stoves and other gas appliances. There's a really wonderful rebate the city's offering for residents to switch from gas water heaters to heat pump electric water heaters, which is great. but it doesn't, most of that pollution's vented outside, but the indoor air pollution from gas stoves, many people and many families are at risk. So I would love to talk with you about how we can champion a similar rebate program for residents who want to switch out their gas stoves to induction cooktops and need some financial assistance with that.
Linda, I appreciate the support and the conversation, and absolutely we will get together. I know Kyle Lavaroni in my office, we've been talking about, and I think he may have reached out to you or maybe Susan Butler Graham, I'm not sure, about this and what areas we can champion on this. And I did see it's coming up on November 17th, so we need to get moving on it. So can I put him in connection with you, or maybe a meeting with you, him, and he and I and whoever else you need to from Mothers Out Front?
That would be great. Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. And then third, just real quick, we are, as you know, our nation's in a crisis right now. Our democracy is at stake. And it might seem like there's not much, you know, San Jose can do about it, but seriously, like, we're going to need everybody to stand up to insist that all the votes are counted, especially if there's attempts to undermine the will of the people. So I wanted to let you know, I went to the rally on Wednesday night at City Hall. Ash Kalbra was there, really great group of faith leaders, youth leaders, but it was not as big a crowd as I would have expected. And so I just want to make sure folks like you and other leaders and people on this call know that if you go to protecttheresults.com, you can put in your zip code and see where local events are. And also choosedemocracy.us is an amazing group of, it's nonpartisan, and they're working on preparing people to how to respond if there is an attempted coup, because it's going to take everybody standing up and not accepting that to protect our democracy. So just asking you as our elected leader here to do what you can to protect our democracy. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's very important. Very important. I appreciate you raising that. I don't know what I can say about that other than it's extremely important that every vote counts, and that we do what we can to ensure that happens. So I appreciate that, and we'll advocate, but I don't, you know, other than saying that that's important and doing what we can. California is so different than other parts of the country, but it's a critical issue right now. We're all under increased anxiety over what's occurring right now and the vote count. So we want all of those votes to count. They matter. They matter.
Yeah, and what we say about it matters. So that's where we can use our voices. So
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Michael, I see you've raised your hand, but I'm going to ask people who haven't spoken first before I circle back to those who have already had the opportunity to speak. David Hirsch, you had a question.
Yes, if I should see a person in the street who is having a medical condition, is there another organization I can call rather than the police?
Good question. Do you have a specific situation?
I've been on the medical
general?
staff at a peace march. I've had 2 girls have said that I saved their lives, but no, not here in San Jose. And my other question is, the ambulance cost about $2,000 to go to the local hospital. I'm thinking of what's the one on Bascom Avenue, not the county hospital. Is it called Goodwill? No. Near the Highway 85. What's the name of that hospital?
Good Sam.
Sam?
Thank you. I know it costs that money at Good Sam, but I'm not sure about the county hospital.
Yeah, you know, David, and thank you for the question, and I'm kind of at a loss, because normally if someone's in crisis, we would refer you to 911 or 311, depending on the level of crisis. So I don't have a good answer for you. Scott or Michael, do you have a thought?
When we say in crisis, are we speaking, are we looking at someone that's injured, somebody that, some psychological
Yes.
situation, mental situation?
Mental situation.
We can let us reach out to some of our city staff, and we can certainly get back to you with a thorough response, and then we can also share that with the group as well. That's a really great question there, David.
Excellent. Thanks for having the meeting. I appreciate participating, and I'm grateful if you can continue this.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Yeah, you've kind of stumped the panel with your question. In our newsletter, we do put out information about those people who are in crisis, who may have mental crises, but that doesn't help you if you see someone on the street. You're not going to look at our newsletter and go, oh, what did Councilmember Foley's newsletter say about who to contact? So let's do some research and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
And what we will do is not just get back to you, but we'll post it in the newsletter so other people have that information as well.
I am grateful for your
Thank you. Okay, John Carderas. John, you're on mute. There you go.
Yes. Okay. Hello, Pam. Thank you for giving us all this opportunity to kind of share an informal meeting like this. My question and comment is, I live in Iron Ridge Way in San Jose by Pioneer High School, and I usually take my dog walking by Almaden School and over to the overpass on 85 and Ross Park there. And that area seems to be kind of neglected, along with, we know on 85, all the homeless encampment and debris and blankets and clothing and grocery carts, what have you, that has been out there. Is there any way maybe we as a community in the neighborhood can do some kind of volunteer garbage pickup or cleanup that you can facilitate, or your office can facilitate? Thank you.
John, absolutely. And where did I didn't catch where you live though. You cut out a little bit. Over near Almaden Elementary School. Is that where you said? Or you said you walked near Almaden Elementary School. I missed. You still there, John?
Iron Bridge. Yes, Iron Bridge Way, which.
Oh, okay.
School, right? Yeah, I live on Iron Bridge Way, which is straight off Blossom Hill. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
So we do.
We're having a bad connection.
Yeah, that happens with Zoom sometimes.
I'm sorry, connection is bad, but.
Yeah, so as far as volunteer cleanup, that would be great. If we can get you some trash bags and even a stick to help you pick up trash, that we can coordinate that. If you want to coordinate a neighborhood cleanup, coordinate some of your neighbors to do a cleanup, we can help you with that as well. John, why don't we get your contact information and we can coordinate something with you to help clean up in the neighborhood. Volunteers are wonderful. We always need lots of volunteers. Trash is a big problem. There's illegal dumpings. We do have a strategy with Beautify San Jose to clean up areas within the city, but it's not enough given the scope of trash that is out there. We organized a large creek cleanup along the Guadalupe last month, and we had 122 volunteers to help us. We're going to be organizing another creek cleanup in December. So if you're interested in creek cleanups, you can put your information in the chat wall and we'll get in touch with you, because it is about manpower, and we pick up trash and we clean things up, and it isn't permanent, but it does clean things up for the time being. And it's a huge issue. There's blight and trash all over the place that does need to be addressed. City of San Jose is focused on it, but we do not have as many resources, and that means time and money, or manpower and money, to clean up everything. And some of the areas that you refer to are the jurisdiction of the state or the Valley Water and other jurisdictions. So we're working with them too to clean up trash. So there's this intergovernmental relationship that we're all trying to focus on cleaning up the trash in our areas. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and let's work together to do a volunteer cleanup in your area. Okay.
Great, thank you. I sent information over to Scott, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, John. Next question is from Tom Fuerte. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Pam, and hello to everybody else. This is my first time attending this, and I'm really enjoying it. It's very informative. It's nice to see that people in the district really care, and I thank you and your staff, Pam, for having this forum for us to be able to speak. That was the first thing, and I think the main thing I wanted to comment on, Pam, I know when we last communicated, you had mentioned something about a reimagining process group, and I never heard back about that I was volunteering to be a resident on that group. So if you could take a note and somebody get back to me on that, I would really appreciate it.
Tom, I know you're interested in that, and I actually have already passed your name on to the powers that be.
Oh, great.
I don't know that the group has formed yet, but for those on this call, this is a group that, as many of you know, the police chief is retiring in a few weeks in December. And so we are on a search for a new police chief, and in part of that search for the new police chief, which will be many community outreach opportunities as we move forward, but there's also a reimagining of the duties and responsibilities of the police department. And Tom's referring to a task force that actually is a community group that getting together and weighing in on their thoughts and concerns about that. So Tom, I did put your name forward, but let me make sure your name is still there. But as soon as the process was implemented, I reached out to the city manager and the assistant city manager to make sure they had your information, but I'll follow up on that for you.
Thanks for the update, Pam.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Tom. Any other questions? Then Michael, you have one more shot at it. Sonsini. You're on mute. Michael? Can't hear you for some reason. Now you're muted. Okay.
I think you're off mute, Michael.
He looks like he's off mute. I'm going to go, Michael, I'm going to go to the next one because until maybe there's a connection problem. I don't know.
Oh, I heard some music in the background.
Okay, I'm going to go to Marcia Hamner. Marcia.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. I didn't see my picture. Thank you, Pam, for taking the time to do this meeting and calls. I know you've been a lot of the Cambrian Plaza meetings that we've had a chance to talk. I have to say I was disappointed. I'd called a week ago yesterday and left a message to talk to you or someone in your office. So I called back yesterday because I thought a week was plenty of time to hear back. Then I sent an email and Kyle Lavaroni called almost as soon as the email was sent, which was great. And he was very helpful. You know, having been born here and seen city services in the past, there's been a real decline in a number of areas. But the problem I had that maybe you could address at some point, a street light went out on our street. We're on New Jersey Avenue between Camden and Foxworthy. So I called on October the 9th. Didn't hear anything at all back. I left a phone message, and you don't get to talk to anyone. And they didn't say go to 311. I did that yesterday because I called back on October 29th, 20 days later, left the same information. So they had my phone number, the pole number, the address by the house where the pole is. And then I called again yesterday. Kyle helped me do 311. It did not work the first 2 times for submit. The third time it worked. But if they're not going to respond, they should tell you on the phone message, go to 311 or something like that. So after Kyle's help, I got a case number, but we're almost a month late. I don't know if they got it. It hasn't been replaced. It's still dark. So Department of Transportation needs to, I think, address their phone issue. If I don't know how many people don't get their message recorded, but that was kind of disappointing.
So Marcia, did Kyle get the poll number and that information? And
He
we
did,
can
but
follow up on that.
I stayed online with the 311, and the third time it worked, and I got the number for the case. So, but it may take now another 3 weeks to get it done. You know, it's not the darkest area in town. We do have other street lights farther down, but I thought it was very poor that Department of Transportation didn't respond. I had no number, so I don't know if you phone and leave a problem with them, if they get back to you or they just pursue it, but it hadn't been fixed yet.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments about response from the Department of Transportation and not being able to get through to 311. Is this the San Jose 311 app?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's some problems with that, and they're redoing the app. So I don't know if that is relation to street lights. The street light fix could be a longer process than just going up and changing a light bulb, because we are converting everything to LED, and that will have to be done in conjunction with that. But if we have the poll number, then we can follow up with the Department of Transportation and see if we can elevate it to their list, because they are replacing lights. The whole city will be replaced with LED lights, but those that have been burnt out have a priority.
Yeah, yes, yeah, I'm aware of that. And in the past, they've gotten out and replaced it fairly soon. But if calling in doesn't work, they should leave you a message and say, please go to this website and report it.
I agree.
I don't know if it got recorded from the phone calls I made.
Yeah.
We know it's recorded now because of going to the 311.
Right.
Anyway.
I really appreciate that, and we'll reach out to Kyle. I know he has the information, and he's pretty good at follow up. So let's see what we can do to elevate that for you and get it fixed.
Can I ask you one other question?
Sure, and then we're going to wrap it up because we're at almost at 10 o'clock.
Do you know when code enforcement will get back to pursuing kind of regular complaints? The one I've submitted isn't, to me, a low priority, because the house that's been vacant for at least 4 years has had a big infestation of rats that have come through the neighborhood. And I think that's a real health concern. So they do have that information, and I mentioned that in my complaint. It's not just that the yard looks bad, but the rats, that's the biggest concern. Yeah, we've never had a problem, and we've caught 7 in the last 2 or 2.5 months. And I know they've got to be coming from over there because it's been empty so long.
Yeah.
But will they get back to those kinds of things like in the next 2 months, or?
The city is bringing back a lot of its services, but slowly. We get updates at city council meetings now every couple of months or every couple of weeks. And we can ask about code enforcement and when they're going to be getting back to things like that. But we're not going to see business as usual, I don't think, until next year, till
Right.
January at least. But they are phasing things back in.
And I understand that, you know, priorities are important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everybody coming and participating in this. This was good. We had a lot of good questions, a lot of good comments. I truly appreciate it. We will do this again in another 2 weeks. And so watch our newsletter for the timing. Probably we're every other Friday at the time, every other Friday at 9 to 10. And so make notes of what you want to talk about, and we'll talk about them when you have the opportunity. But if it's an emergency or if you have other issues, please reach out to our office and we will respond. We are not in the office. We are all working virtually. So if you're calling the office, you may not get a return phone call. We are routing our phone messages, but you may not get a call back as quickly. But if you're emailing us, the office, then that gets distributed to the staff person in charge of that policy area or that policy area. So with that, thank you all for joining us. I will maybe see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll follow up with you, with those of you who we have issues that we needed to follow up with. Thanks a lot and have a good weekend.